I'm going to tell you a story. The theme of this story includes two comfort words, universalism and love. Universalism is the idea that no one person or being is destined for a more special or more terrible afterlife. Love is our connection to one another, the energy in community.
Wait, before we start the story, we need a volunteer. Someone who's willing to stand up here and maybe not mind getting mushed around a bit. Oh, Johnny, thank you. We're going to have you stand right here. You're going to play the main character, which I know you often do.
Over 200 years ago, in a small house in a small town, on the edge of a forest of very big trees in the state of New Hampshire, there lived a small boy. His name was Hosea Ballou. Hosea was always asking questions about what and why and how. Hosea liked all sorts of games to play, and spring was Hosea's favorite season, because in the spring, it would rain and rain and rain, and then Hosea could jump into the mud. Hosea loved mud. He liked it when it was soft and squishy, and he liked it when it was thick and sticky. If it didn't rain quite enough, that wasn't a problem. Hosea would carry water to the dirt and create glorious mud puddles all on his own. He liked to jump in the puddles hard with both feet and make the muddy water splash really high, so that the mud splattered all over his brothers' and sisters' clothes. He loved to step in puddles very slowly, so the mud oozed up just a little bit at a time between his toes. Yes, Hosea loved mud. Not everyone in this family liked mud quite as much as Hosea did. His sister, who did laundry and scrubbed the family's dirty clothes in big wash tubs, didn't like having to scrub all that mud off of Hosea's clothes, or off of anyone else's clothes either. And Hosea had stomped in a mud puddle extra hard. His other sister, who kept the little children clean, didn't like having to scrub all that mud off of Hosea. And Hosea didn't like having baths either, especially when it meant he had to stand in a wash tub in front of the fire and have water dumped over his head.
Wait.
But his sisters loved him, so they took him home and washed him and dried him and made him clean. Then Hosea's sisters went to their father and said, "Father, please tell Hosea to stop playing in the mud." "Hosea," said his father very sternly, "you should not play in the mud." "Why?" asked Hosea. "Because," said his father, who was one of the preachers in the Baptist church the family went to, "just as we try to live a good life, to be kind to others, and to follow God's plan, we try to stay clean." "Yes, Father," Hosea said, and after that day, he did try to stay clean. But it wasn't easy. He stopped stomping in the mud puddles on purpose and splashing the muddy water everywhere, and then he stopped making enormous mud pies. But sometimes the mud was just there. Then he had to walk through the mud to get across the yard to gather eggs from the chickens. He had to walk in the mud to feed the pigs, and sometimes, when he was already muddy from doing his chores, he played in the mud, just a little bit, and got even muddier. His sisters, who loved him, took him home and washed and dried him and made him all clean. But Hosea's sisters went to their father again and said, "Father, please tell Hosea to stop playing in the mud." "Hosea," said his father even more sternly, "you must not play in the mud." "Yes, Father," Hosea said. He was sad, but he had truly tried not to get muddy, most of the time anyways. "Are you angry with me, Father?" "I am disappointed in you, and I am a little angry with you." Hosea hung his head and kicked at the dirt with his toes, and then he dared to look up, just a little, to ask, "Do you still love me?" "Hosea," said his father, and his father didn't sound stern anymore. "I will always love you, Hosea, no matter what you do. Even if I get muddy again, yes. Even if I get really, really muddy, yes. Even if I get mud all the way up to my eyebrows and between my fingers and toes and even my hair, even then, his father said with a smile. Then he added, very sternly again, but remember, Hosea, you must try to stay clean. I'll remember and I'll try, Hosea promised, and he did. He stayed clean most of the time anyway. As he grew up, he stopped liking mud quite so much, but he still liked to ask questions about how and why. Father, Hosea asked when he was a teenager, how can it be that our church believes that God will only let in 1,000 people into heaven, and even many of those 1,000 people lead good lives? His father didn't have an answer for that question. Father, Hosea asked, if I had the power to create a living creature, and if I knew that creature would have a miserable life, would suffer and die, and then go to hell and then be miserable forever, and I went ahead and created it anyway, would that be a good or bad thing? And would I be good or bad? His father didn't have an answer for that question either. Hosea had to find out his own answers, so he read the Bible, a book with many stories about religious people and about God. He went to some Universalist churches and asked even more questions there. At the age of 19, Hosea decided that he believed in universal salvation, which is the idea that everyone, everywhere in the universe will be given salvation. Eventually, everyone will be saved from hell. And not only did Hosea believe that God would let more than 1,000 people into heaven, Hosea believed God would eventually let everyone into heaven, good and bad. How can you believe that? Asked his father. How can you believe God would only let bad people into heaven? Because, Father, I remember what you told me when I was small. I believe that even if God is disappointed with people or a little angry with them, God will always love them and want them to be happy, no matter what they do and no matter how muddy they are.